Sooners team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com, and signing day is behind. What an adventurous, just a explosive signing day that we had on Wednesday, the final signing day of the 2020 class. Yeah, that's all right. Welcome in Josh McQuistion, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Prisbillo. I am Kerry Murdoch, as we are monitoring Thunder trades, potential trades, as this podcast is taping. Right now, the Thunder are still intact. Like anybody cares. You're here for signing day information. You're here for the breakdown. You're here for...
I don't know. The draft...
Why the hell are you here, then?
The trades might be more interesting than Oklahoma signing day to begin with.
I mean,
so much action
There was
yesterday.
no one that could
Hell of a
start...
sales pitch, guys.
And nobody's listening to this pod.
Well, I'm just telling you right now that Lincoln Riley's lost control of his program.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
I'm out of the hot takes business this week.
Turn me up just a sniggle.
Okay. That seems racist.
You have used your actual stamps for this week, Carrie. You're all full up.
There we go.
Yeah, I have no more takes to give.
I wanted to do it on a Sunday, day of the Lord, too. Just really kind of
Wasn't
rubbed me the
you
wrong
in
way.
Super Bowl? You hate Rex Burkhead a couple years
I
ago?
forgot about Rex Burkhead. I got the Nebraska fans. Look, Super Bowl Sunday, it just coincides with
Drinking.
I mean, it's a great night to drink.
I disagree. It's a Sunday.
The Lord's Day.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Well, not even that. I don't drink on Sundays. Or I try not to.
Well, we each do our own thing. And
It's always surprising to me when, like, Eddie suddenly has some, like, vague morality. Like, it confuses me.
I just think Sundays is an incredible day not to drink.
So you've never gone on a golf course and just got plowed?
I'm not saying that I haven't. I'm just saying that I don't, usually, normally.
It's the goal. It's not always achieved, but it's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Look, it is. Everything's kind of winded down for the year. There's not a lot of stress. It's a good day to order your favorite meal on your food delivery service. I actually scheduled it for that day. Fajita nachos from Interurban. My favorite nachos in town. There's a free plug, Interurban. That doesn't mean Dean is welcome to come on here and go, "Hey, Rosser." We're not having any of that.
I refuse to
Eddie
comment.
really wants to say something.
I refuse to comment.
His head is he's convulsing over.
2020, I've turned over a new leaf.
By the way, I want to remind you, the pod sponsored by Midfirst Bank. Go to midfirst.com/U40 and apply for the OU Rewards credit card. We'll tell you more about that coming up. But Josh, let's get into it. Signing day happened yesterday. It was just pretty much confirming everything that we knew, and we didn't try and hype it up as it was going to be this great day and all these surprises might. We didn't even act like Alfred Collins might even be a possibility to do anything but sign with Texas. So I don't know how many people tried to make it a deal. We didn't, because we don't treat you like morons, and we don't think that you're stupid. We just tell you how things go. But it was pretty much exactly what you thought, what everybody thought, Josh.
Yeah, it was always going to be a day that really wasn't that active. There just wasn't going to be any surprises. I know at one point there was some talk. Alex Grinch had followed a defensive back from Butler like Tuesday night, and the guy ended up picking Baylor like everybody expected, and he signed. I was told there was never anything to that. I don't really know why it happened. There are times I wonder if the coaches just like messing with everybody and are like, they all watch who I follow, so I'm going to follow 20 guys and I'm paying attention to 2. So, I don't know if that's how that works all the time, but it's interesting to see sometimes. But yeah, they finally got to announce the signing of Reggie Grimes. They finally got to announce the signing of Josh Eaton. Josh Eaton, we never really tried to hide because Josh Eaton
Told us.
didn't try to hide it, and then he did.
And then
hide
he
it.
did.
And you're like,
Right. He backtracked.
Okay. Yeah, it was a weird deal. But with Grimes, let's face it, we all played the game, and you guys can go back and look. I had to get so careful with how I worded everything because I'm like, I'm not going to lie for this kid. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lie for any kid. But I won't go as far as saying he signed. I'm just going to say, guys, I feel really good about the situation. Like,
We had
I'm
to
confident. There's
delete topics on Monday.
Yeah, like I really tried to not like I said, I didn't want to lie, but at the same time, I didn't want to. I kind of wanted to do what the kid was hoping to do, which is have a big ceremony and feel like. Well, the weird part about the Reggie Grimes thing, and I'll get away from what I was talking about. He waited all this time to have this announcement with his family, but he sent OU announces it like 7:30. So what difference did it make? It wasn't like everybody was in suspense at his announcement. Like he signed with his family, and that's fine.
I think it was just giving it. I read some of Jason Kersey's article. He went to Nashville for it, and he bet that Lincoln Riley wouldn't have a press conference that we had to stay here for, and he didn't. But he basically said he had a couple of relatives come in for like Florida or something, and they couldn't have been there if he would have done the early signing day.
Right,
so.
but what we're saying is if he announces at 3, but you've already put it out at 7:30, then you've killed the quote-unquote drama.
Well, did he try and have like a
I never took it that he had any
or something?
drama or anything. I think he just wanted everybody there.
Yeah, just like a school celebration.
Couldn't he have just had that ceremony today anyway? Like they're all there, we can pretend he signed something. It's
Josh,
great.
I tend not to tell people that their families are stupid on the podcast.
I just don't understand. Like I thought they would wait, and then at 3 when he did his whole thing, okay, and now we're out, and we've got the video that they've been sitting on for 7 weeks.
All right, well then him.
That's an unnecessary one. Come on.
So drinking Sundays is you'll die on that hill, but you can't just give a break to a high school kid who wants to celebrate with his family.
I'm not opposed to drinking on
OU
Sundays. I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe OU jumped.
I am perfectly comfortable.
Maybe OU jumped the gun.
It's possible. I wondered about that too. Eddie.
They might have not orchestrated it with him.
Yep.
Of course, you didn't have a lot to orchestrate. So
the drama of the 15th ranked class in the country.
Oof.
And I say that jokingly because I do think that, not to steer it away, but it seems like this class had more to do with filling needs.
I thought they got I like the defensive line class. I like the offensive line class. It's not a shiny class.
Right.
But I like a lot of the pieces. Now, the problem is always going to be for Oklahoma with the way they can recruit at quarterback. If they're going to have a top 5 class, they almost have to have a 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
And instead, they got a 5.53 star, which I think is considerably too low for Chandler Morris. But even if he is like a 5.8, where I kind of think he is, that's not going to, maybe they move to 14th. Like, it's not going to be some massive jump.
And also because they got him so late. That's what that's what I keep saying. It's like, if you got to get Caleb Williams, you would love to do it right around the spring game so he can help you for the next month. When you get someone at the Under Armour game, that's not going to resonate. That's not going to help you land anybody going forward, and that's just kind of the way that they stood. And when you look at this class, to me, it's all about the junior college kids. If those kids pan out, then you can check it off. They did what they need to do. If those 3 flop, this was a disaster class.
Sure, that makes sense.
And don't you think too that it's kind of the classes before, whether it's the receivers, the quarterbacks, like they kind of hurt this class's numbers,
for sure,
because it was really hard to go in there and get really heavily involved with a lot of 5-stars when it's so highly publicized that you have Spencer Rattler and Theo Weiss and Jaden Hazelwood.
It was always going to be a weird year.
Yeah, and that's what I've said before. When you look at the 2017 class with Rambo, Lamb, and Brown, then 2018's gone. That entire group is not even on campus. So you see how quick that can intimidate some positions. For some reason, offensive line isn't one of them. But Bill Beatenbow continues to churn out the top talent every single year. But, yeah, I mean, if Spencer Rattler's not in Norman, Bryce Young is a Sooner. You can't convince me otherwise.
No, I think that's
I
probably
truly
right,
believe that that's the case. But now I think, because Spencer Rattler's in Norman, that gives OU a better chance at Caleb Williams. So it's just weird how that stuff works out.
The other thing that I look at, Josh, is with this class, you're talking about, and you know how this goes. When you bring in a new coaching staff, they, a lot of times, Alex Grinch didn't come in and say, oh, I'm at Oklahoma now, I'm going to reshape the way I recruit. I'm going to reshape the type of players we recruit. No, he had an opportunity to go out and get Edgerrin Cooper, and he chose to sign Shane Witter because he evaluated that kid, liked him better, wasn't playing for rankings, which, some people have been accused of doing around here in the past, Jerry Montgomery. But Shane Witter, is a guy he believes that he can play for him, which Edgerrin Cooper, I think LSU had a question can he play for us? A&M, ended up with him, but OU, I think those questions, can he play for us? Is he really going to be a difference maker? Is he just all flash, coming out of high school?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. You look at some of that class, guys like Noah Arinze, nobody was crazy about Noah Arinze, but I can tell you, talking to multiple sources, that was a guy that from very early on, Alex Grinch identified him and liked him, and I think almost probably had to sell some of the rest of the staff, this guy can fit what we do. And part of it, you guys have to remember, guys like Calvin Thibodeau or, as Ruffin McNeil was there, or even Lincoln Riley, they're having to adjust to this is what we're looking for. We have certain specific types that we're looking for. Noah Arinze isn't a big-time fit in every defense in college football. But I think because of his speed and his ability to get upfield, he fits what Alex Grinch wants to almost to a T. Now, he's not refined. You want the guy that's a little further along physically that has the same physical tools. That's what you're working towards if you're Alex Grinch. But Arinze's a guy I'm sure he feels like we can develop him, get him with Benny Wiley, get him on the food regimen. We're going to get him bigger, stronger, faster. And then in 2 years, we've got a guy who can rush the passer from defensive end and really only had to battle, schools that just aren't on our level for him. And then you start, like I said, we've talked about this, guys. I don't think you can say how big the possibility if Oklahoma can watch Neville Gallimore and Kenneth Murray both go in the first round in a couple months, that is huge for defensive recruiting because those guys, they can sell. They were nowhere near the radar. They weren't even close. If I'm OU, I'm sending that clip of Kenneth Murray talking about his love for Brian Odom to every linebacker in the country. I want everybody to see that on draft night. I'm going to go through that whole thing. But this is, like I said, he has a clear idea at every position what he is looking for, and Shane Witter is a great example. I like Shane Witter a lot. I thought that was a great one. You look at, Josh Ellison is a guy that I don't think I like as much as OU does, but they know what they're looking for. They have specific types, and I think in a lot of ways, if this class can be what they want it to be, it can be a lot better than people realize.
And I've said this a lot, it's pretty clear that there was I'm not saying a come to Jesus meeting, but when you look at all the kids in the portal, and Bob's been tracking that over the last year since Austin Kendall first decided to transfer, they've got to take a look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What we're bringing in kids that cannot play for us, that can't compete for jobs. We've got to look at our evaluations. We've got to take a deep dive. What are we doing as a staff in terms of player development and recruiting the right type of kids? And
that's actually kind of brings up about the lack of drama yesterday. It's because they didn't go after the Plan C or Plan D kid.
Right.
That would have just been a future portal.
The Ty DeArmonds.
It would have just been a Troy James who's going to end up in the portal. You got him a couple days before signing day. That's awesome. Didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Those are the type of kids that sometimes don't pan out at all, but you feel
or offering a Derek Green of the world.
You feel like the need's I got to have someone in this class. We needed another body. And so you pick them, and then they don't do anything instead of waiting. So, yeah, it made yesterday boring, but maybe, as we've said before, it'll help in 2021 because you've got that extra scholarship for maybe that elite guy that may not necessarily you wouldn't have a spot for him, but for someone right next to him, like you want to make sure you get the top-tier guys of what you're looking for.
Or decent safety in the portal
Yep.
or something.
Well, guys, look at some of the January signings in recent years.
Exactly.
Ryan Jones, Troy James, Michael Thompson.
Yep.
And that's in the last 2 years. Now, last year you had David Agwebu, which looks like that's going to be a really good one. And there were
Brandon
David
Willis
Agwebu was an Army
one.
All-American.
Yep.
It's a different. But you got Quinn Mittermeier, Austin Roberts, Prentice McKinney, Dahu Green, Arthur McGinnis, A.D. Miller, Antoine Stevens. I mean,
I'm noticing a trend here, Josh.
When you go into January, it can get sketchy.
Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a Zach Evans still out there, but
sure.
Again, it almost defines the rule. There's a reason Zach Evans is still there. Like there's a reason a guy that prodigiously talented has not picked anywhere because a whole bunch of schools were like, no, we're good. So we'll like I said, I get that it's not exciting and there's not a lot of fireworks, and obviously Oklahoma missed out on DeAndre Butler and Alfred Collins. Those guys were fighting for one position. So this idea that Oklahoma wanted two and they missed out on both, Oklahoma wanted one of them, couldn't get either one. Now you can say that's worse. I don't know. Look at that however you want to. But they wanted one more defensive lineman. That's the only thing they wanted to finish with this class, and that didn't happen. And that's life. But personally, I'm with Bob. I prefer, I mean, unless you're in an emergency where, okay, we literally can't have spring practices because we don't have enough of X position. But going to take just bodies, that sets up a problem for 3 more years rather than trying to navigate it for one.
Is there anything that you think that they would have done or done differently, with this class now signed and delivered? Is it taking an Edrin Cooper, or is it, sticking with or trying to still recruit a Ryan Watts or somebody?
I think it's
hindsight's always 2020, but do you think that there's something that they would have wished they could have done maybe more?
I think it's a good question to ask Lincoln Riley if we get to talk to him next week. Like, if you could have anticipated that the portal was going to fill up pretty quickly.
But then again, they had to have known, didn't they?
That's why I'm going to say, you can, could you anticipate that? And if you could, would you have liked to maybe have looked at another linebacker or two? I think Edrin Cooper's going to be the one that if he pans out with the Aggies, that's going to stick in the craw for a lot of people because they had him. And to most people, they don't understand why it had to be an either or instead of an and type of deal.
I think Edrin is the one everybody will talk about. The other one I would offer that I think is maybe as interesting is Jahari Rogers from Arlington, the OU legacy.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
OU seemed, when they offered, like it was just a matter of time before he chose Oklahoma. Like, he really was interested. Ended up signing with Florida, committed way back in July. Ended up as the number 101 player in the country, number 8 corner in the country. So this is a big-time guy that I think OU could have gotten. And they chose to move in the direction of like Dante Manning and some of those other guys, and Ryan Watts, who was Rogers' good friend.
Yep.
I mean, again, hindsight's 2020. Like, I understand, but at the same time, these are the decisions. I mean, these are the things you get judged by. I mean, did you gauge that situation correctly? Now, I like what Oklahoma got at corner and Kendall Dennis and Josh Eaton and Devon Graham. I like Dennis and Eaton. Graham, I'm kind of interested to see how that works out. But with Rogers, I mean, coming in, he's more highly regarded than any of those guys if he was part of your class. Now, again, Alex Grinch has his own ideas on these things. So I don't think that's a dead set thing. And I also think when you look at the only film I've really watched of Rogers the senior was against Trayvon West, and Trayvon West ate him for lunch. So, take that, I guess, as a positive if you want, that the guy that a lot of people didn't love in this class really ate up one of the guys that we're talking about, could have been a help for this defense.
How do you feel about the safeties, about, anyone capable of playing safety in this class?
Well, I think the biggest disappointment is Justin Harrington not making it for spring. He seems very confident, but a lot of junior college kids are always confident at this point. Yeah, I'm going to make it in the summer. That's not even a question. Well, if you were supposed to be the mid-year guy and you weren't, that's already a big question mark because they got Bryson Washington, and again, I think that's one of the most important Alex Grinch recruits so far, but you wanted Harrington on campus right now too, so that puts a little damper into things, and we'll see how quick. First of all, we'll see if he can do what he needs to do to get here in the summer, and then how quickly he can pick things up once he gets here.
Yeah, I mentioned it last week how much, talking to some people, there was some real enthusiasm about Bryson Washington from some of the people I've talked to. Not really anything kind of definitive, just kind of along with Harrington, that length they're going to bring to the secondary. Like they were talking about looking at LSU and just like, man, our guys in secondary, they don't look like that. And I think with Harrington, Washington, Eaton, you're starting to get some of those guys who, even if they're not in somebody's hip pocket, they've got the arms and the length to just get their hand in the way, just possibly just get in the receiver's way of making a completion. So I like I said, I think there's optimism there, but I agree with Bob. It would have been huge if you could get Harrington there. I've heard talk, and I really should put this up on the board. People are going to get mad that I'm talking about it in the pod. Sorry about that. I've heard really good early buzz on Bryson Washington, maybe working some at nickel early on, just kind of trying to see if that could be a fit for him. Again, it's so early, it's all experimental. I mean, they're just throwing stuff around. But I'd heard some talk that there was some optimism that maybe that could be a good fit for him.
They're going to be allowed to experiment with Turner Yell being out for spring. I mean, they can just kind of throw Cradell and Woody Washington and just, in Bryson Washington, there's going to be 2 Washingtons now. So just kind of see where those guys fit. Spring be a nice time to try to just have fun with them and see where they'll best be in terms of their role going forward.
Well, it'll be interesting, too, to see exactly how they approach Trey Dorwood and how much time he gets. Does he go full go? Do they take it easy? Does he even wear pads for the first month, or does he even do the spring game? I mean, those are all questions that Lincoln will answer for us next week.
I would imagine that they give him a full run. I mean, he was out. He was even moving around during bowl practices. Yeah. So now he might not play in the game or something, but there's going to be a lot of guys that probably don't play the game. That's usually how it works.
Beginning of August for Trey, it was like
it was the first day of practice.
He was the first guy that went down.
So,
I mean, Caleb Kelly came back and he went down at the end of spring, right?
Yeah, March. Yep.
And Jordan Kelly was back even earlier than that. So
yeah, he was back for Texas.
Yeah,
it was a Texas game that he was back in uniform.
So, I mean, they're going to have some more bodies. I would imagine Buki would love to get back on the field after, the dumbest play in the history of OU football.
What happened?
You don't remember? Okay, never mind. I'd like
and he
to
just blocked that whole game from his memory.
And he was
never happened.
They're still getting ready for the Peach
We
Bowl.
were streaming all that stuff back, and Eddie was like, I should just turn it off, shouldn't I? I was like, yeah.
Got a good half, though. First half. A lot of touchdowns, highlights, and lowlights.
Yeah, it's good if we ever start the LSU passing game. By the way, what just a total dismantling of that LSU staff after that game.
It's going to be very interesting, and I guess this could be seen as a shot at Coach O. I guess it is a little bit, but it's going to be very interesting if they can bottle that success back up, because I think a lot of what they did last year was obviously Orgeron's going to get a lot of credit, but probably not enough credit was given to, and maybe it was. I mean, shit, Joe Brady won the Joe Moore Awards. I mean, not Joe Moore, Broyles Award.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, I think that those assistants really, Coach O is a great motivator, but can I say, I don't know how good of a head football coach he is. Is that really stupid to say after he wins the
same thing
national
about
championship?
Dabo, I mean,
exactly.
Like, I think a lot of that
he wasn't
success,
ever he was he coordinator? No, I don't think he ever was. He went from defensive line coach to head coach.
Dave Aranda to Bo Pelini. I still think Bo Pelini's probably a really good coach. He was just kind of out of place. He got ran out of Lincoln anyway, so I don't know.
He did. He won a national championship with LSU.
Yeah.
And he was never really the defensive coordinator at OU. So
I'm wondering if the game has passed him by.
Bo,
Yes, we'll find out.
yeah,
He definitely doesn't seem like the types that's going to be
Adjusting to what?
well, and just recruiting his ass off every day.
I still swear to God, when he first
When you
got
throw a suitcase of money down in front of a kid, though, it makes recruiting a little bit easier.
it's a little bit easier. I swear I saw him leaving the Arby's on Lindsay. That's not even there anymore. In an SUV, shirtless.
I believe it.
I mean, that's such a Youngstown thing.
Driving around shirtless or eating at Arby's? Or both?
Both. Well, coming out of the drive-through shirtless in an SUV.
I could see that. What year was he here? What was that? 2000.
Well, it was they played
Jesus,
in the.
It was that long ago.
You remember they lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. Then Mike was on the sidelines against LSU, and Bo. I can't remember. I don't think he was coaching in that game, but I think he was on the sidelines too. And then he got hired right after that because he had been. Is he let go at LSU?
You mean when he came to OU?
Yeah.
He just got done being the interim guy at Nebraska after Solich got fired.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, he was on Solich's staff. So, yeah, I mean that whole thing. I got to think if you're LSU, I mean it's kind of like the Chiefs. It's like, if they are the favorites to win it again next year, but no one's going to be like. There's no pressure on Kansas City to win again. There's no pressure on LSU to recreate what they did this last year, especially with losing your quarterback, basically your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I think the thing that was most interesting is just watching everybody follow Aranda to Baylor. Like that kind of, I don't know, opened my eyes a little bit to and we know Baylor's paying a bunch of money, but man, those guys have a lot of both faith in Aranda and Baylor as a football program. More than I do.
Including a bag man.
They hired a bag man.
I want to see somebody knock out Austin Thomas next year. Legitimately go up and knock him out.
Kerry might.
Throw a
we'll
punch.
just get him riled up about the Nashville trip, and Kerry's just going to go take a swing.
No.
Well, that's not any fun.
That guy's the
Let's
worst.
build the drama here.
Mel it
Kerry.
out, man.
That guy's like a successful Taylor Ham.
He has his own business and drives a truck. He will tell you any day of the week, okay, buddy? Mm-hmm. He makes more money than you've ever seen, Eddie.
Taylor.
I'm not talking about Austin Thomas.
Yeah.
He will lecture quite comfortably on how comfortable his life is.
I'll wait for that friend request on Facebook.
Yeah, well, I mean it's a friend request / welcome to my business model. So I mean it's really whatever you want it to be.
All right, so
I'm cheering for the Wuhan coronavirus to find its way. I'll stop short.
Very nice.
See, I've turned over a new leaf.
Nice.
Well, we have Kerry trying to get us back on track, and Eddie not saying mean things. Guys, it's a new chapter in the day of the unofficial 40.
2020 is a new world that I'm living in.
God, if we could just avoid family talk with Josh, it'd be the perfect pod.
Well, I mean, if we want to get into it, we can do that.
That is the most random thing I've seen this week. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, please stop with the family talk. I have children of my own. I want to escape them. I don't need to hear about your family. I think he was basically insinuating that we're turning into Facebook pod.
No, it's totally fair. I literally don't care about your children. I don't want to hear anything about them. I don't care. Because it's a fact. That's a fair criticism. Tiffany's gone for the weekend. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so back on track to recruiting, just kind of wrapping it up, the whole class. Are there, I don't know, should we do this post game? Do we have our Eskridge Lexus recruit of the year? I mean,
I like it.
You go offense, defense, and who you think will be the biggest impact out of this class?
Immediate impact or just biggest impact overall?
You choose. That's too much work for me.
All right. I'll give everybody a little minute to think about it. I think maybe everybody knows where I'm going to go here. Andrew Rame is my guy. That I'm a huge fan.
Screw you, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not going to come in and beat out, Oklahoma's 2 starting guards or anything. But if you told me he's a 3-year starter and, first, second day pick for too long, I won't be surprised. I think Andrew Rame is one of the best high school offensive linemen in the country. I think Rivals drastically missed on his ranking. And, I think in time we'll all see it.
Eddie, did you see that gesture that Bob made toward Josh?
Wow.
He's probably tweeting Tony.
She's kind of disappeared.
I told you this today. You're half of your Twitter is like ghosts because you talk to either people
Bob
that
talks to everybody that's blocking me on
people
Twitter.
That block me.
But we appreciate their subscription to Soonerscoop.com.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we brought Bob aboard, because we're all assholes and we needed a ringer.
There's just one person I blocked. That's it. Everyone else is welcome.
We needed Bob to bring balance to the force.
I don't block people anymore. I block ads. I block all the clickbait, ads that are on Twitter.
I say I don't like this ad.
Oh, I block the people serving the ads. I don't need to know what this celebrity looks like now. Because you won't believe it, apparently.
Now or nude really changes my perspective on if I'm going to click that link. So
That's how do you block an entire website though?
Well, you
I feel like
block
that's
their
all.
handle.
I feel like that's all Yahoo.com's front page is clickbait on somebody like a certain celebrity or something.
Yeah, well, people click.
I know, and that's just it drives me insane.
We should. I've always thought we should start one.
I'm gonna just start
We should have,
repackaging every single tweet about OU into a story.
We should. Why not? Why don't we start a clickbait? It won't be on Soonerscoop.com. We'll start, Soonerpoop.com or whatever.
What about BoomerSoonerEverybody.com?
Okay.
What?
That's too long.
BSE.com?
What about DSR.com? Is it taken?
I see bullets flying by my head.
So, yeah, we should do it. We can hire some kid out of college and just make him churn out crap. It'll be Bob's release. He can yell at someone. We'll put Bob in charge of someone just so he can get his frustrations out and boss people around.
All right.
I like it.
Let's go.
That'll be all right.
I feel like Bob is like the nice guy that if you give him too much power, he's going to turn into a tyrant. I feel like it. Because Bob knows what he wants.
There's no doubt. Yeah.
He knows exactly how he wants to do something. And if you don't do it that way,
Plus,
I could see you being locked in a basement
I
or
would
something.
be there. I would be there for the passive-aggressive aspect of Bob's managerial style, which is, if you care, this doesn't work at all. So if you care, you might want to fix that. But if you don't care, I understand. That's fine. We'll just leave it as is.
Delete.
So you guys both named the offensive guy. Give me your defensive guys. Andrew Rame. Bob wanted to kill Josh because he wanted to.
Yeah, let Bob go first so I don't step on any toes this time around. Yeah, I know. You wouldn't like him when he's angry.
I'll go Reggie Grimes just because I think so many people started to be down on him that I don't know if the expectations are nearly as big as what they once were. And he's someone that's got the physical tools to be something incredibly special. I am sort of wondering where they think he'll fit in. Because I know the way OU phrased it, outside backer, is he defensive end? I know he's Calvin Thibodeau's guy, but does that change when he gets onto campus? But he's someone that when you look at what he did in the 2 All-Star games, doesn't mean he's going to be that great based on those, but you saw the flashes that have you excited about what he can do once he gets under this coaching staff. They wanted him for a reason, and he feels like someone that maybe the other schools that thought he wasn't good enough, they might regret. He might be their guy looking back like, whoops, we kind of missed out on that one.
I like that one a lot, Bob, and he feels like the exact recipe for a guy that does bounce back from some of the people that have questioned him. I mean, at one time, I've said it a bunch of times, this guy was a 5-star. Like, he was like the number 8 player, I think, at one point on Rivals rankings. He has, it's not that like he's fallen down to Oklahoma, but I think we can all accept if everything would have gone the way he wanted, he wouldn't have gone to Oklahoma. That wasn't his plan. He was probably going to Alabama. But it's worked this way, and I guarantee he's heard people doubting him. He's watched his rankings fall. He's seen some of these things happening. That feels like the type of guy that comes back and is like, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. I'm going to make something, you know, like I'm going to show that I am as good as my physical ability says I can be. So right. I think that's a good recipe.
All right, Josh. Why is this different than Ricky DeBerry in 2015, where we felt a 5-star kid kind of fell into OU's lap?
I can say in that case, I mean, and Eddie and Kerry can back me up on this. I was never a huge Ricky DeBerry fan. Like I didn't see the movement skills that were going to make him a great player. I thought
there were people on OU's own staff that was torn.
Yep. Because I can flat out, I mean, you know, we can get into the whole Jerry Montgomery thing. I can tell you, without Jerry Montgomery, Ricky DeBerry is not part of Oklahoma's class. He kind of kept recruiting him, even though Tim Kish and some others had moved in a different direction. So like I said, I think you just can't kind of ignore that. But at the same time, I like, if I was going to pick one guy, I'm going to stick with my guy and kind of go under the radar with it. I love Shane Witter. I get the argument for Perry and Winfrey. I think he has the most upside. At the same time, he's gonna there are some things in his game he's going to have to develop. He's going to have to be consistently part of the team, which was an issue at Iowa Western. So if he can mature and do all these things, he has first round kind of talent. He's that special. But it's just a matter of if he can put all that stuff together. And JUCO guys, let's be honest, guys, that's a crapshoot with those guys. You just don't know what you're going to get until they are there going through the motions. But with Witter, I mean, you look at what Oklahoma, who's the guy at inside linebacker that's going to keep him out of that position? I mean, I think Deshaun White can be a good player. I think moving inside may be better for him. But at the same time, and I don't think he's going to come take Deshaun White's job. Don't misunderstand. But do I think he could get as part of that rotation even as a freshman? Yeah, I do. I mean, like, I think he has those kind of instincts. I think he is a better athlete than people realize, and they have a need for him to come along and be that guy. So I guarantee Brian Odom is going to do everything he can to try and push that guy as quickly as he can.
Well, like we documented all year, Alex Grinch and Brian Odom, they want to rotate guys. So if he can play, he'll play. And I could see next year being more of a rotational year. I mean, you had Kenneth Murray. They tried to kind of rotate him early. As the season went along, the games got bigger. He played more and more, and that happened with the safeties too, and really happened with Jaden Davis a little bit in the secondary. But they're not going to have Kenneth Murray next year, so I could see them being closer to 50-50 with their linebackers.
And they're going to have a lot of reps to give Witter in the spring. I mean, we talk about the portal. When you lose Ryan Jones and Draper and, of course, Murray leaving for the draft, that's 3 open spots. I mean, there's no doubt Witter's going to be another guy you can have fun with, experiment, and try to see where he fits.
And if he's not ready, you got Brian Mead.
Why?
Any news there, Kerry?
Why you got to go there?
I was going to leave you alone, but now that you wanted to get it out there, let's talk about it.
Scholarship player, right, Kerry?
I have not put this on the board because I didn't want to start World War III, but I'm told he is on scholarship now, yes.
It's weird that OU hasn't announced it.
I just don't think they announced much of anything.
Well, they announced when Connor McGinnis and who was the other one? There were 2.
But it was during the season, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, Lincoln doesn't have time to be messing with press releases right now.
It's a dead period. That's all he's got time for now.
Anyway. Okay, so one thing we had not addressed since we talked to you last time on the podcast was the hiring of Jamar Cain, who was announced as the outside linebackers coach, which I thought was interesting. And I don't know, guys. I mean, Josh, you had mentioned that, through the course of talking to some recruits, you kind of got a feeling like he is kind of taking on some edge rushers in that responsibility of outside linebackers coach. So, we'll talk to Lincoln later next week, but it does seem like he was the defensive line coach at both Fresno State and Arizona State, and it does kind of sound like maybe outside linebacker is morphing more into an edge rusher defensive line kind of position for coaches and players, maybe.
That'll be. I won't say that I've heard that. I do think it's an interesting possibility because this guy does have a lot of background in that realm. So it's not like it's something that is a big reach or they're trying to make something fit that doesn't. He's got a lot of track record coaching defensive line. He's been a good recruiter at the position. So I kind of wonder if he's going to coach the outside linebackers, but he and Calvin Thibodeau kind of spearhead both, like the defensive line recruiting will work for both of them. Because I mean, like we just talked about the Reggie Grimes, there is some overlap. Like you're going to have some guys that when you sign them, I don't know if he's a linebacker. I don't know if he's our 5-tech defensive end, if he's our stand-up outside linebacker. There is some connection between those two things, so you can kind of let those guys work together. But I haven't heard anything that makes me think that he will each day in practice be doing anything other than working the defensive line. Or, I'm sorry, working other than outside linebackers.
Working with the Guebu and John Michael Terry when he comes back and Nick Benito and
Bob actually
Benito.
featured that group this morning on Soonerscoop.com if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
Now, what's weird is, because I was going through, there's no one on 2020 that felt like they fit that mold, which is okay because they're loaded in terms of young guys with Benito, Guebu, and Wete. But it was a little interesting to know that I didn't see anyone on 2020, but Ethan Downs for 2021, I believe, fits that perfectly.
I will be shocked if Ethan isn't a defensive end. Like, just based on some people I've talked to, that's what I expect him to move into. I don't know if they want him dropping out in coverage and doing some of that stuff. He's just, you guys have seen him more recently than I have. He's so big and just a big kid. And I think once he starts putting on weight and filling out, I think the expectation is he'll be 270 before he knows what
he's
happened.
like Watt Brothers thick, kind of.
Yeah.
Not to put too much pressure on a kid.
Yeah, that
feels
white guy.
Could you had to pick a white guy, Kerry?
Come on. Come on.
He reminds me a lot of Dan Cody.
Joey Porter? Is that who you're comparison?
Maybe Corey Heineke.
Josh,
does Spencer Rattler remind you more of Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
It's kind of a little bit of a.
It's a social experiment.
It's like a mix almost, if you will.
Oh, jeez.
What? What? Is it not?
Brought to you by.
Is this racist?
Oh, that was very racist.
He just turned into the crash there. That's very racist. I'm going with it.
Josh, was Cain at Junior Day?
Yes, he was. I'm trying to remember who it was I spoke to that spent some time around him. Was it? No, it was the linebacker from Mainville. I did the story with him.
Medlock.
Justin Medlock, yeah. He mentioned being around him some, but he no, it wasn't Medlock. It was a defensive lineman. It doesn't matter. I talked to one of the defensive linemen that was there whose name it's blanking on, and he mentioned spending some time around Cain. It was the Arden Walker kid from Colorado because they had a relationship when Cain was at Arizona State, and so I was kind of asking, kind of to check if Cain was there, kind of to check in on is Cain going to be doing the defensive line stuff, seeing what that was. And he said he didn't really talk to Cain much at all. He said, I saw him and we said hi and that kind of thing. But he said he spent most of his time around Calvin Thibodeau. So I think that probably, don't get me wrong, it's 1 week into the relationship. So I don't think everything's been ironed out. But I think it gives you some indication that, defensive line guys are still going to be Calvin Thibodeau's guys.
By the way, I want to remind you guys, the title sponsor of the Unofficial 40 podcast is Midfirst Bank. I want you to go to midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And you can apply now for the OU Rewards credit card. It's got a low introductory rate for the first 12 months of 0%. You can also receive a free Bluetooth speaker when you apply in person at participating Midfirst banking centers. redeem rewards points for cashback, gift cards, merchandise, and travel. There's no annual fee, and you can redeem points for OU fan gear and OU student bursars account to pay for tuition. Also, you get to walk around with the credit card that says OU on it, which is pretty cool. So go sign up, midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And really appreciate Midfirst Bank being our title sponsor for the Unofficial 40 podcast, even continuing through the off season. So thanks to them. Okay, one thing you mentioned Junior Day, and it was hard not to see some of the kids that were coming in, the pictures that were being taken, just some monstrous human beings. And Josh, can you kind of just break down a little bit about what happened for the Sooners on Junior Day recently, and kind of some of the big names to keep an eye on?
Sure. And first off, I thought this was probably one of the more well-organized days. It felt like everything went more smoothly. Yep. I don't know, more smoothly is not right, but I mean, like, it just seemed like everything was really clean with how OU handled it after a few weekends that were kind of weird and off, and you couldn't quite tell what the plan was. But yeah, you had a couple of offers go out. J. Michael Sturdivant, the wide receiver from Flower Mound Marcus, his quarterback is Garrett Nussmeier. Dad is a current Cowboys coach and was longtime NFL quarterback Doug, and is actually a guy that I could see OU becoming involved with. So that's kind of an interesting storyline to follow. I'm trying to remember who. There was at least one other offer, and I'm going to forget who it was. I need Bob.
Well, they had four. They had Quinn, 2022 quarterback.
Quinn Ewers, you're right. The quarterback from South Lake Carroll.
Brian Allen, safety.
Yes, the safety from Alito.
And
Alito. Let's not don't everybody cuss at once.
Jordan Hudson was the other.
Yes. So Oklahoma was busy. I mean, very active. Everybody I talked to loved it. Brian Allen raved about it. He was really excited, really kind of looking forward to getting back up there. J. Michael Sturdivant, I think Oklahoma has made – and if you look, people think I'm just saying that to be funny. That is actually his Rivals.com page is J. Michael Sturdivant. So get used to saying that. But he really liked it, really enjoyed himself, spent a lot of time with Dennis Simmons. Whether it was 2021, 2022, everybody really was very positive about everything that they saw. Obviously, no commitments came, so I think everybody's like, oh, well, it's negative, it's bad. There was nobody there that I felt like that's going to happen if the things go right. Like, that's just not the way that weekend shaped up. I mean, Bryce Foster, he wasn't going to commit to OU on the trip. Now, he did come back, immediately put OU in his top 5 in his release that he made right after his OU visit on Saturday and A&M on Sunday. I think Oklahoma's making a real run at Bryce Foster. I'm not saying they're going to get him, but more and more, that's his 3rd trip to Norman, I believe. He is serious about Oklahoma. This is not a guy that's going up there and kind of talking about things. I think Oklahoma's got a real chance there.
It would seem like that is a situation, too, that don't you just feel more comfortable or confident, I guess, going after somebody like a Bryce Foster when you know Bill Beadenbo's leading the charge?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, like, with some of these guys, you'll talk, like Alex Grinch or Brian Odom, whoever, they have to sell people on what could be. They have to try to, if you'll come here, we can make these things happen on defense. Bill Beadenbo's like, what do you need to know? Like, all I do is produce NFL offensive linemen just year after year after year. I've got another first rounder probably next year waiting to happen. There is all this to buy into. He's won the Joe Moore Award. I mean, he's probably, I would say now that Sam Pittman is a head coach, I don't know who the argument is for the best offensive line coach in the country. I mean, like, I don't know who the other guy is. I think Bill is probably pretty accepted as that guy.
Interesting. Outside of that, did you enjoy looking at his calves in all the pictures?
Well, I'm going to try to go over and do an interview with him just so I can kind of eyeball him for a little while,
Get
just
you one of those digital calipers and just make that your new thing, like calf measurements every time you.
Oh, yeah, that could be like the hallmark
like
of
like Rivals camps this year. We'll just do calf. We'll find the biggest calf.
And then we'll have to find something to measure density. Like we'll get into it. We'll really figure something out here.
That might get a little weird.
Well, I mean, you've taken it here. I got calipers on these kids. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, by the way, Rivals camps are getting ready. They're already actually started, but what we're actually, I just booked Eddie for Orlando, the happiest place on earth, for the 18th coming up later this month. So all this stuff is getting ready to happen. You saw some of the stuff we were working on toward the end of last season with the live video. We're going to take that even further during the camp season, which puts a lot of pressure on myself right now. I'm just realizing because there's a lot of stuff I got to do. But all that stuff is starting to happen, and so there's going to be a lot of stuff going around the site in terms of camps and new videos and our chance to interview these kids going from place to place. So should be a lot of fun there. Outside of that, real quick, let's talk a little hoops because the Sooners lose a tough one at Texas Tech. Played really, really well until the last couple of minutes of the game, and it just kind of got away from them. But I know Eddie and I both were kind of like, woe is me, like we got to watch this crap, especially, after the loss at Kansas State, which the losses at Iowa State and Kansas State are the most baffling things to me.
Especially when you look at how they played in Waco and
in Waco and Lubbock, yeah.
And
then
obviously
you watch
won in
Iowa
Austin.
State just get
Iowa State's
drilled
not a
last
good
night
basketball
by
team.
West Virginia. It was awful. Oklahoma State won their first game, though.
Congratulations to them. Mike Boynton doing a great job up there.
First game
year.
in conference, at least. It was on ESPN Plus, so most people didn't see it.
And it was free attendance.
Yeah, they had to get because of the weather.
Because of the weather.
But anyway, Brady Manick.
ESPN Plus is just an awful
product
distribution.
Yeah,
But
it's not. I haven't been a fan.
I think it is this year. I think in a couple of years it's going to look smart.
Well, my God, I would hope so.
Well, I was like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I was for it, some type of a digital plan for the Big 12 if they, with the way that Longhorn Network was set up. Like, if they got ahead of it, it would be good to. And I was talking about making a deal with like, Hulu or somebody like that for the conference, sell the conference rights. They're kind of doing it with ESPN Plus, but the only thing it's really doing, I think, right now is just helping create some goodwill with ESPN for when their next round of negotiations come back. So, I mean, it's not doing Fox any good. It's probably making them a little jelly on the side, but it should be good for I mean, if they don't get significantly better, a better deal when they come back to the table with ESPN after doing this ESPN Plus deal, I'd go to the SEC. But I've been saying that for years.
The only thing this conference cares about is tweeting out pictures from Waco, Texas, and women's basketball games. I'm convinced of that.
What else are you going to do right now this time of year?
I mean, they have two of the top 3 teams in the country on the men's side.
Yeah, but they can't hype up Kansas because they're
and Texas women's volleyball. That's another thing that the Big 12 Twitter account loves to tweet about.
OU to women's gymnastics.
I don't know if I even follow the Big 12 Twitter account.
Yeah, that might need to be my problem. I just need to unfollow it.
Because I never get upset about this
when
stuff.
They get to equestrian and swimming, that's not kind of.
I'll say it. No one gives a f***.
Hold on.
Looking at the Sooners,
but yeah, we're back to basketball. Brady Manick obviously playing really well.
You lose against Texas Tech. The great thing is you have the bounce back chance against West Virginia to get a real resume building win, and that's what this month is full of. They just have to take advantage. They don't have to win them all, clearly, but if they win like 2 or 3, if they can beat West Virginia at home, maybe get Baylor at home, that'll be enough. That'll be enough marquee wins as long as they don't have any disastrous losses, and really they can't because they've already had them.
Yeah,
with Iowa State, Kansas State. I mean that would be enough to kind of put them in the driver's seat to being that 5th place team and getting a tournament bid. But right now, what they got to do, Christian Doolittle's got to get going. Yeah. He hasn't scored double figures last 3-4 games. I mean, he's doing a lot of other things, creating assists, still getting the boards.
But he just seems like he is afraid to get offensive.
Yeah, I mean, he's settling for the jumpers that came easy in November and December. And now they're not falling, and he's
Yeah.
got to adjust. They're not going in. Stop settling for it when you've got more in your game. There's more you can do to try to get to the hole, get fouls, get to the free throw line, things of that nature. Because right now, Austin Reeves is picking it up a bit. The only problem, the problem with Reeves is he has to shoot a lot to score a lot. He's not efficient. He can be like 2 of 8 from 3, and he's able to get his points, but that's a lot of shots to get to where he needs to be.
And he dribbles a lot.
He dribbles a lot.
Manic is a guy that knows where his shots are. They know how to get him the ball, and he puts it up and he either scores or he doesn't. Austin Reeves eats up the ball, and it's I do like the flow of the offense now that they're starting Bieniemy, even though he's still not hitting shots. It's better than having Harmon in there because he just seems like a guy that doesn't know.
He's still figuring out.
Yeah,
I like his honesty about that.
Yeah.
That he hasn't figured, and it's been frustrating for him because I think you come in first couple games.
But he seems paralyzed at times when he's out there.
He's thinking so much, and he's like, I can't make the wrong decision because how many times does he drive into the paint and then just get swatted? I mean, he's not a big guy, he's not a physical guy, and the moves he made in high school have not translated to college, and he's still figuring that out because he gets his stuff blocked a lot.
And you've seen a little bit more out of Alanis Williams. He does some good things here and there. He still just needs to have a bit role though. When he gets to where he tries to do too much, that's when it goes wrong for him.
And he played 4 solid games. Tech was okay, but I mean, you looked at his performances the last couple of weeks; they've been huge. To where if you feel like you can count on him for consistent bench production, that would be awesome. But I still think that's more of a bonus. You don't look at him as being a guy that's going to give you 10 to 12 points every single time out, and that's part of the problem is that they just don't have the consistent scoring. It feels like Manic's going to deliver. Reeves might get you there. It's got to be Doolittle coming back. And if Bieniemy and Harmon can ever get going, it's so weird because how you have to adjust your expectations. Because now it's like if those guys combine for 12 points, you're happy. That sounds insane to say, but there's been times where they've had 0 combined. And so now you're like, oh, they got 6 and 6. That's awesome. That's not what you need from your starting backcourt, but it's just something they got to get through during this next month of the season.
Now, I want to see him continue to try to play cool off a little bit as they go along. I mean, he does good enough things around. He could be a rim protector, which they don't have if he's not out there. So I like seeing that. But like you said, it really does come and I almost just want to start calling him Fran Schilla, just for brevity.
Yes.
By the way, Fran, love that guy, but his positivity is at an all-time high. Like, he literally,
all those basketball guys are like that.
If you killed someone on the court, they would say that, one, you probably didn't mean to, and they need to go to the replay to see if that person's dead because they don't think that it was a murder.
I feel like all those basketball guys are like that. You get in that little...
it's such
get that in that little circle, that coaching fraternity, you don't leave.
But it's also such a smaller world. Like, you have to appeal to everyone, to Seton Hall and Xavier and Oklahoma. I mean, like, outside of Kentucky and Kansas and North Carolina, like, you have to make everyone happy to have an audience. So to me, I think that's part of it. But they were kind of going over, okay, this is Oklahoma's chances. If they don't win this game, they're probably last 4 in. So they are clearly right on the bubble now.
Yes.
It comes down to it comes down. Oh, Big 12's getting 5 teams in. Tech, West Virginia, Kansas, Baylor are in. Mm-hmm. That's your 4 that are in. Texas, TCU, OU be playing for that final spot.
And it's
I don't think
weird.
there's going to change.
Yeah, because like TCU can beat Tech and then lose to the Cowboys. So it's hard to judge.
I think that's just college basketball as a whole.
You can
Jamie Dixon can coach.
That 5 through 7 spot is such a toss-up, but the Sooners have a couple home games here. If they can beat West Virginia, then they have Iowa State at home next Wednesday going into Kansas, which they'll probably lose, but at least they can get some momentum going. It'd be nice to stop alternating wins and losses. That's what it's been the last 3 weeks.
And you went and saw Bijan Cortez the other night.
I did. 2021 point guard
See
commit.
Austin Reeves Jr.?
Out of King. Yeah, a little bit, because when he drives the hole and dunks, people just don't see it coming.
Yeah.
But, someone from Team Griffin, so he'll be recruiter now for Trey Alexander out of Heritage Hall, but Bijan is just someone that kind of known about the last couple of years, got offered last spring. I know people look at him and say there's no way he's a basketball player, but all he does is put up points, is efficiency. He had 24 points on 8 shots.
And like you said, he's playing on Team Griffin, so he's playing against good competition.
It's not just,
he had a huge summer going into his junior year last year on the circuit.
He's just playing 4A ball against nobodies. No, then he's doing that on the AAU circuit too. So he's someone who's definitely locked in. He won't be looking around. His goal will be to get other Team Griffin members to join him with the Sooners. Good chance to talk with him. We'll have a story about his recruitment and how everything's going there. But he went over 1,000 career points on the game that I was at Tuesday.
Also, spring football is going to be coming up soon. I mean, we get through this month, and then I know, Josh, you saw recruits had a schedule. What was it, March 10th? Was that the first practice? So March 10th, so we're just about a month away from the start of spring practices, and that's going to be obviously pretty exciting. There's going to be some guys, like we talked about earlier, Delarian Turner-Yell, that you'd like to see practice that probably won't be practicing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he gets some work late or something, but he kind of indicated, I think, in Atlanta that he was going to miss, right?
Pretty clear. I mean, man, you got to think that's at least a 4 or 5 months deal for him when you're coming at New Year's Day, but basically.
Adrian Peterson came back from it in one season.
I don't think it's unfair to equate anything that Adrian Peterson's done physically.
Like bone growth? Like, really, though?
His bones, I would attest, are different.
ACL just comes
I would
back.
say that his body is put together
just comes back.
a little bit more carefully than everybody else's.
He's basically a mutant.
Didn't it come out in Bob's book or something that he ended up having surgery after that bowl game?
Why are you doing the syringe thing? Like you're pointing to your arm, like you did steroids. Are you alleging that Adrian Peterson was a steroid user?
No, he didn't. If there's one guy that didn't need to use steroids, it was Adrian Peterson.
That's what they said about Barry Bonds as well.
No, that's not true. His forehead got giant, and he was tiny when he started out.
The only thing on Adrian Peterson's body that has gotten larger is his lip because he needs more room to pack tobacco into it.
He's a big. Anyway,
I mean, he's a horseshoe guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Puts like half of a can in his bottom lip.
It's a lot. Josh, so moving ahead, do you have any predictions for 2021 kids to look out for in the near future?
You know, you're going to start to see. I mean, we've talked about this on the last few pods. Oklahoma's gone into a dead period. Like, it's just a weird scenario here where you've got Oklahoma kind of going through not just Oklahoma, but just everybody in college football. You're not going to have on-campus visits. You're not going to have Oklahoma going and making trips. Like, this is usually a kind of hot zone for these things to be happening, and it's not going to happen until next month.
The offers are crazy, though. The offers have been nuts this week.
I've done 2 of them, and I want to do another one. But every day there's 5 new offers, and so that my list of my story of breaking down each new offer, I'm like, this is getting insane. It's gonna be 20 guys,
and they're going from coast to coast. It's just some are West Coast, some are East Coast. This is just a all-out blitz.
It's spreading the net basically everywhere.
Yep. It's been wild. So, but I mean, like I'm going to get in another one of those probably, hopefully over the weekend. Again, Tiffany's gone. But anyway, no family talk.
So are the girls gone too then?
No, I have.
Teasing that. Did you?
Holy shit!
What'd you do to Tiffany? You keep teasing that like you want to get caught. This is some kind of psychotic thing.
Like don't F with cats deal here.
Is this like Morse code to Linda?
Come over,
Linda, if you're listening. No, she has a.
I believe that would be
thing.
vamos.
Andale. But no, we are. Yeah. Well, because I mean that's about how much English Linda speaks. Like we would need a Spanish code word. She does not know. I don't know. I'm not saying that to be shitty. Her English is better than my Spanish. Her English is better than my Spanish. Whatever. Good for her. But anyway, in the 2021 class, like I think there are several guys you could kind of watch. Kendall Daniels from Beggs feels like a guy that could happen at some point. There was kind of an interesting connection on a guy that you all know, Easton Davis from Beggs, was offered a preferred walk-on to Oklahoma State, and there was some talk that was going to entice Davis to Stillwater, and then his close relationship with Kendall Daniels might bring Daniels to Oklahoma State. Easton Davis ended up signing with Southwestern yesterday.
Interesting.
So I think that probably puts that to bed, and I've heard a lot of talk that there's a lot of momentum with Oklahoma and Kendall Daniels right now. I think that's what he's kind of thinking. I don't know that
despite
it's
all
imminent.
the offers that are coming his way, Notre Dame, Oregon, the Aggies, he's had a busy couple weeks.
We have had some. We've been, napalm has dropped. Nuclear explosions have happened on the Crimson Corner. If they lose Kendall Daniels to an out-of-state school after everything that's gone on lately, the corner might not survive.
Yeah, it's not going to be a good thing. And the good news is I think you're starting to see it's a pretty good year in Oklahoma. Like in 2020 was a little – you had Andrew Rame, and I think Brendan Walker has potential. But other than Rame, there was no guy that you were like, no doubt that's a guy that can help. I mean, this year you've got a couple of guys that I like that OU hasn't even offered yet. So, I mean, and they may not. But like guys like Colin Oliver, Bryce Stevens, I mean – Oklahoma could do a lot worse than those guys. Colin Oliver picked up an offer from Tennessee yesterday. So, I mean, there are good players in Oklahoma that Oklahoma can kind of take their time with and make some decisions. A.J. Green, I don't know where that is right now.
Right?
It feels like Oklahoma has kind of moved in a different direction.
Well, and him too, though.
Yeah, with his whole running back stance.
I'm only a running back, yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, recruits and parents out there listening – Don't draw lines in the sand. Don't tell schools you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. Man, if it's going to keep you from getting an offer you want, why would you do that? Like, why close the door?
When he's been getting offers here the last couple of weeks, he is tagging the running backs coach. So it feels like some of these schools are actually seeing him as a running back. I don't believe he would be an OU running back.
Yeah, he's a good running back. Don't get me wrong. Like, and he's a speed guy. Like, there are reasons that he would be appealing, but to me, I can find 5'10", 5'11" running backs that can run. Like, that's not
There's
that hard to
four
come
in the
by.
top 100 that DeMarco Murray needs to be working on first.
Yeah. I mean, that exactly. Like, if they get down to A.J. Green, then I feel like it's probably a little bit disappointing in the running back room. Meanwhile, if they'd have gotten him as a corner, I think A.J. Green has a lot of potential. I think he has a chance to be a better corner than Trey Brown. But if he doesn't want to do it, then what's the point?
By the way, any early feedback from recruits on DeMarco Murray?
Very positive. I have talked to Travion Henderson, who Murray went by and saw. Kamar Wheaton's kind of one of his recruiting coach there at Lakeview Centennial. I've talked to L.J. Johnson about it. Everybody is very excited about it. I had Travion Henderson hit me up and was kind of like, hey, is this real? Is this happening? I'm like, yeah, man, it looks like this is going to be the guy. So he was very interested. And, Kamar Wheaton, obviously being a Dallas area guy, what I think is really interesting, and it kind of only occurred to me this morning, when you look at the running backs that Oklahoma's involved with, you got Travion Henderson, Evan Pryor out in kind of the East Coast,
right,
Mid-Atlantic area, and then you've got L.J. Johnson and Kamar Wheaton in Texas. Well, you think about where DeMarco Murray played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yep.
He played for the Cowboys. He played for the Eagles and the Titans. I mean, really well located for those four kids to have seen a lot of DeMarco Murray. So, I don't know that he's going to resonate with a kid from Oakland in quite the same way that he would with those four who remember him being a Pro Bowl or All-Pro kind of running back.
I thought it was kind of funny, I guess, in a way, that the picture that Kendrick Blackshire put up was him and DeMarco.
I wondered about that. You almost want to put a little truth syrup in Brian Odom and be like, is he feeling a little shade about it? A little truth syrup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where's my goddamn picture?
Exactly. Why am I not on there?
It makes sense, though. I mean, he's now recruiting guys that probably grew up right in that time frame of DeMarco being a huge deal in the NFL.
Yep.
So I don't like the Cowboys, so that doesn't resonate. But yeah, all those kids growing up in Texas probably like Dallas Cowboys. They would remember Murray. Good point.
Yep. No, I mean, Bob, none of us like the Cowboys. I mean, screw them. What, fans listening? Starting to fight.
I guess so.
I'm not fighting anymore. I'm staying out of this.
Kerry has laid down his sword. This is a beaten man. I'm concerned.
No more redneck voices. No more hot takes.
Listening to the last few pods, Bob is taking on some redneck voice roles here.
Always.
I like it.
How come they
Bob.
never get on you, Bob? How come it's only me?
Because it's on good fun with me.
Yeah, you're being an asshole.
Yep.
All right. Well, this asshole would like to know. You guys got anything else for us before we get out of here today? Anything you wanted to hit on that we hadn't hit?
I did want to mention something, and it just pertains to the podcast. We have added I have decided to add a new element to the Sooner Scoop drinking game. I mean, obviously we have Josh Kids, the vacuum. I mean, we've got a lot of things you can do. Kerry mentioning Kevin Wilson is now a square.
I haven't mentioned him all day, and I wasn't going to.
You haven't mentioned him in this pod. I bet you in the last 4 you have mentioned him, and they've all been unrelated.
You've been mentioned quite a bit.
And it's fine. It's something that seems to come up. I'm worried that you miss Kevin a lot, and I feel like maybe you want to talk about it.
In fact, I think he caught wind of it because he called me Saturday or Sunday. We talked for like an hour and a half, just catching up.
You gave some inside scoop to Kevin Noon, I'm sure, at Ohio State site.
He didn't talk anything about Ohio State. He just told me he was happy there. He made good money, and I think he saw some of the tweets. Like I just said, one of the things I said was, Ed Orgeron should hire him as his offensive coordinator at LSU. Like that would be a great hire. Sure. And that was my whole thing. Like, if we all see that, like you have an offensive coordinator, he gets just like with Brent Venables. Like there's no way he should still be a defensive coordinator. When you become one of the top coordinators in the country, then you become a head coach. Like you can only keep those guys for so long. But that was Kevin Wilson. He was one of the top coordinators in the country, and eventually he got a head coaching job. Now he's at Ohio State where he's not even the offensive coordinator because they gave it to Ryan Day to keep him. And, if you want a really good offensive coordinator, I would think Kevin and that's just my knowledge, of people that are out there. Like, there's other people that would have that kind of knowledge about other people. That's just my history. So I'm not saying, oh, you need to hire him, you're a fool. I'm just saying that's a really good example of somebody that you could hire that would be a home run hire.
As the one who has instituted this new step in the drinking game, that does count as a Kevin Wilson talk and a conversation. So, yes, you're drinking.
You screwed people over.
I don't care.
I've mentioned Tiffany 3 times now on this podcast. People are going to be a little buzzed. This is going to be some Thursday, Uber drives home, guys. Be careful.
Don't take an Uber. Wing it.
Do you have to...
You didn't talk family. You just mentioned Tiffany.
Do you have to chug if the podcast didn't come out on the regularly scheduled day, like one big chug before you even start?
That almost might be like a shotgun, maybe. Because this is like the shotgun start to your weekend. Like you just get to listen to this whenever you want to, Thursday or Friday. And frankly, once the pod's over, call in sick. It's done. You're good for the week.
We can add in, any mention of me never have trying the pot. I think that came up on the board this week.
I'm right there with you, so that's all right.
Come and save me, Josh, please.
I think Eddie and I
hanging
have to
out with
live on
squares
alternate
over
planets
here
from you two. I'm like, the pot, yeah, middle school was a bitch.
Look, I don't
want
to hear Eddie bitching. I passed edibles to him at a concert one time, so it's not like I'm that big of a square.
But did you pass him to DeMarco Murray?
He wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Well, you would have shared, so that's important. That is a crucial part of being a pothead. You got to share.
All right. I think we've done in the podcast now. I think we're done. Appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate Midfirst Bank, their title sponsor. Remember, midfirst.com/U40. Go sign up for that OU Rewards card. Apply today. And thanks to Josh McQuistion. Thanks to Eddie Radosevich. Thanks to Bob Prisbillo. I'm Kerry Murdoch. We'll see you guys back here next week right here on the Unofficial 40 podcast from SoonerScoop.com.